Settle in. Let the room darken around you, and before we drift back to the brick dust of another age, take a quiet moment to join this sleepy circle by whispering in the comments where you are and what hour the clock has found you, so our travelling company can stretch from city lights to moonlit countrysides. Feel the weight of the blankets, the hush of breath, the soft hum of night, and know we will move slowly and gently across centuries. Tonight, we linger in the shadowed corridors and torchlit tunnels beneath an arena where Rome showcased spectacles so extreme that even seasoned senators pressed perfumed kerchiefs to their mouths. The sand there remembers acts that went too far, staged not by chance but by men and women whose unusual callings pulled coin, power, and inked glory from every scream. Let the present loosen its hold as we close our eyes to the modern city, and hover instead above the Flavian amphitheatre in the waning light of a second-century afternoon. The breeze carries the smell of olive oil lamps and damp stone. Below, crowds ripple like dark scarves, 50,000 souls wrapped in wool and linen, fingers stained with dates and garum. We will descend, but first we listen to the currents of Latin, Greek, Punic, the low drum of expectation. The empire has promised an evening beyond imagination, one financed by fortunes from provinces stretching from Lusitania to Cyrene. Those fortunes, we will see, are the lifeblood of the arena's most brutal designs. Gently now, step down marble stairs worn concave by generations. A guard's bronze helmet glints, his breastplate echoes that he serves the Praefectus Annoni, ensuring the city's food and the arena's performers both arrive on time. His job is mundane, yet tonight his oversight ensures the execution heads for the scheduled hour. The arrangement is written on wax tablets, backed by chiseled precedent in the event lists preserved on the Fasti Ostienses. Every detail matters when the crowd expects terror rhythms precise as the metronome of heartbeats. We move through the velarium shadows, the canvas awning drawn to shield viewers from the sinking sun. Whispered gossip reaches us about the emperor's presence. On days like this, the acts push even the boundaries of imperial taste, and rumor says the arena master has commissioned machines so elaborate that the engineer himself will earn equestrian rank from the applause. Feel the quiet reassurance of the narrator's voice, steady and rhythmic, as we settle near a railing and look down. Sand swirls, raked into perfect circles that mask trapdoors waiting beneath. The hypogeum, discovered in fragments during the excavations of 1813-1874 and again in 2011, is the backstage brain for what is to unfold. The carpenters below, members of the Collegium Fabrum Tignuariorum, have unusual careers. By day they repair roofs, by night they align pulleys to raise tigers into myth. This dual life feeds their families better than simple construction, and their names appear on scraps of lead pipes found in the subterranean corridors, boasting of bonuses earned when a beast emerges exactly on cue. Now we watch as the opening act leans on a job that many in Rome whispered about, the curator Venationum, the huntmaster. He is not a simple entertainer. He is a financier, a logistician, and a silent partner to several governors. When Marcus Ulpius Lurus served in this role under Trajan, the tablets found at Vindolanda show his requests for panthers shipped from Numidia, each animal insured by contracts carved into CIL 7th 2075-1. Tonight, his successor, Publius Aelius Alpinus, guides the Venatoris. The unusual wealth of the curator comes from imperial stipends and private bonuses. Every animal that survives the journey allows him to resell hides and claws to perfume makers, to apothecaries, even to jewelry workshops that set lion teeth in gold as lucky charms. He funds baths in Ostia, invests in shipping, and whispers in the ears of senators. His influence is measured in roars. The first gate lifts softly, slowly. Out pads a Syrian elephant, skin powdered with chalk to shimmer under torchlight. But the real star is the adolescent acrobat crouched on its back, a Greek boy named Philocharis. His profession is recorded in an inscription discovered near the Porta Triumphalis, a national from Thessalonica, sold to the Lanista Cruentus, trained as a funambulist of the amphitheatre. His unusual skill is to thread a rope between roaming beasts while balancing pitchers of perfumed water. The crowd coos. This is gentle, but it is only prelude, a lullaby before the storm. We note the breath of the elephant, the rattle of chains, and the hidden stakes driven into the sand to mark future positions. Even the gentle acts were investments, ensuring the audience stays until dusk deepens. Philocharis's master collects fees from elite patrons who sponsor his tricks, yet the boy sleeps in the caserne with gladiators, under the same decree recorded in Scriptores Historiae Augustae, telling that performers are property of the fiscus. Wealth touches him like a shadow. Feel the softness of our own breath now, slow and deep. Perhaps, just once, follow a gentle pattern to settle nerves. Inhale 4, hold 2, exhale 6. Listen to the hollow echo of your own lungs and imagine them harmonizing with the thousands in the cavea. Their breath a single low tide that lifts and falls. Dusk arrives, and with it the first act that tests the limits of cruelty. The editor, Munirus, the sponsor of tonight's games, is the Senator Gaius Fulvius Maximus. His family's fortune began in the grain fleets, but his youngest son married into a guild of theatre engineers. Now Maximus invests in spectacle. He has hired a troupe from Alexandria known for staging scripted hunts where myths are reenacted. Tonight they promise the fall of Actaeon, but with twists. 12 condemned criminals, captured in the Sicilian raid of 69 CE, stand at the arena's centre disguised as the hapless hunters' companions. They carry wax-coated spears. Why wax? Because the stage master has fitted the hypogeum with pipes that will burst flames along the perimeters, melting the weapons mid-air, so the criminals appear disarmed by divine wrath. Engineers from Claudius's Naumachiae, whose descendants still hold patents on waterworks, have been paid to make it happen. The job of these pyrotechnicians is unusual. They are sought after for temple festivals, but only here do they command triple pay, 30 sestertii per day, recorded on fragments catalogued as Lex 15799. The crowd watches as horns sound. The gate reveals a pack of Gallic hounds, lean and starved, and behind them a stag crowned with gilded antlers. The animals belong to the menagerist Titus Flavius Scaurus, whose family once traded amber in Aquileia. He turned to beasts because the profit margin soared. A single stag transported to Rome could sell for the price of a townhouse. His business ledger, preserved on a wax tablet found in Herculaneum's villa of the Papyri, mentions the Actaeon performance, noting bonuses for handlers who keep animals alive through 3 shows. Yet the scene unfolds messier than planned. As the criminals run, the flames burst, wax melts, screams rise. The dogs hesitate, confused by the glowing fireline, until a handler cracks a whip. Suddenly a stag charges not at the criminals, but toward the imperial box. A veteran archer stationed in the podium reacts, hitting the animal with a barbed arrow. Blood arcs across the sand. The crowd roars approval, but among the equestrians whispers begin. Did the editor go too far with fire? The smell of scorched hair reaches even our calm perch. This is the moment when cruelty and chaos intersect, and the job of the stage engineer becomes notorious. After this night, a senatorial decree will limit open flame near the podium, forcing engineers to design hidden braziers instead. Innovation is born from excess. Let us drift closer to the underbelly of the arena, where torches flicker. Here the dissonant heart of Rome's spectacle beats. The caretakers are called the Damnati Custodians. Their unusual profession is to maintain the condemned before execution, ensuring they live long enough to die on schedule. It is a macabre form of nursing. They feed the prisoners barley gruel enriched with herbs to keep them docile, a recipe scribbled on a wooden tablet unearthed near the Ludus Magnus. Their wages are paid not from the state, but from the personal purse of the editor, making them loyal to his timetable. They wield influence quietly, able to delay a death, if they see profit in rumour. One such custodian, Aemilius Prior, left graffiti in a hypogeum corridor, quando tardavi, premium recepi. When I delayed, I received a reward. We consider him as we hear the muffled cries above. He profits by controlling the pace of fear. Now the arena resets. Sand is raked, brightened with crushed shells to gleam under torchlight. The next act introduces the physicist of pain, the machine designer. His name recorded on Cilvil, Phi 8N Gnaeus Sergius Lupus, Machinarius Amphitheatri Flavi. He crafts devices that transform execution into theatre. Tonight he unveils a pivoting platform disguised as a gilded stage. At its heart stands a young noblewoman accused of poisoning a rival. Her crime is both personal and political. The rival belonged to a family aligned with the imperial household. Rather than simple execution, the editor aligns her fate with myth. She is, Dirce, bound to a bull. The machine will drag her in a circle, letting the bull run while ropes tighten. Once, such an act might have been straightforward, but Lupus has added a counterweight system so precise that the pace of dragging can be slowed to match music from the Tiburcines. In the stands, while the crowd marvels, the senators note the craftsmanship. Lupus's unusual career grants him access to elite clients. He installs water organs in their villas. A year after this performance, he will be commissioned to design a lift for the Imperial Palace Library. Cruelty gives him cultural capital. The bull is released, hooves thundering. The contraption rotates. The musician strikes a low harmonic. The woman's cries blend with the horn's wail. Even the crowd grows uneasy. Tacitus once wrote of such scenes in the annals, and though he is long gone, his words echo. Tasks turn to entertainments, blood for the favour of the populace. We watch with gentle distance, acknowledging the pain yet steering our minds to the structure of power behind it. The family that condemned her will donate to the Temple of Saturn. Their wealth increased from confiscated estates, their political standing solidified through the very public nature of her demise. Every act in the arena is a ledger entry in someone's fortune. Let silence descend for a heartbeat. Notice your own body, the relaxation of shoulders, perhaps the softness of pillow. There will be more darkness ahead, but we remain steady guides, narrating without haste. The arena lights shift from golden to crimson as night deepens. Torches rise, hung from the colonnades, and the scent of pine resin thickens. Somewhere, a vendor sells mulsum, sweet wine, to calm jittery watchers. The program promises a spectacle imported from Pergamum, a medical school's demonstration turned cruel entertainment. It is the turn of the anatomist. In Rome, physicians often studied at the imperial court, but a few sought fame by offering theatrical surgeries. Rufus of Ephesus once lectured in the city. His successors take the practice further. Tonight, a doctor named Artemidorus, rumoured to have studied at the Library of Alexandria, will dissect a condemned killer before the crowd. His tools lie on a silver tray engraved with snakes. He has insisted on a living subject to demonstrate the seat of courage in the heart, claiming inspiration from the pseudo-Galenic texts copied in 38 CE. The condemned man is drugged with opium, extracted under the oversight of the arena's pharmacopolist, another unusual profession. These specialists hold the keys to the chemical arsenal of the amphitheatre. Their workshop, discovered in fragments beneath the western corridor, contained mortars stained with poppy residue, willow bark, and powdered oyster shells. They supply stimulants to animals, sedatives to prisoners, perfumes to cover decay. Their wealth is subtle yet steady, built on commissions with every major editor. Artemidorus begins. He slices cleanly, explaining in Greek. The crowd leans in, half fascinated, half nauseated. He points to organs, showing the resilience of the beating heart until the sedative deepens and the man fades. Senators discuss the philosophical implications, while tradesmen cheer simply for the spectacle. Months later, the writer Lucius Appuleius will allude to such a demonstration in a letter, questioning its morality. Tonight, however, the act proceeds, and Artemidorus receives a laurel wreath. His reputation skyrockets. Wealthy Romans invite him to private banquets where he tells tales of the human interior. He sells copies of his lecture notes on papyrus, a text referenced in a scrap found at Oxyrhynchus P. Oxy. LXXX 5259. Yet the memory etched into the arena is of cruelty masquerading as education, a brutal act that went too far even by Roman tastes. The audience applause is hesitant, scattered like drizzle on marble. The night moves ever deeper. We drift down to the animal pens, where the Bestiarii prepare for a staged tragedy that fuses theatre with death. The inspiration is Ovid's tale of Orpheus, but Rome always adds a twist. The team of animal handlers, recruited from beyond the empire, includes a Parthian archer named Vardanes, whose unusual job is to choreograph predator behavior. He inherits knowledge from generations of nomads, understanding how to incite lions to attack at specific signals. His knowledge is valuable. He earns enough to purchase houses in Trastevere, a fact recorded in a property deed preserved on the bronze tablet CIL 157311. Vardanes's influence extends into politics. During the reign of Marcus Aurelius, he negotiated tax relief for his guild by offering a special performance for the emperor's birthday. This is how the arena binds commerce and cruelty. Tonight, Vardanes unleashes two lions named Marsyas and Calliope. They have been trained to respond to the glint of polished bronze. On the stage stands a lyre player, a condemned musician, chosen for irony. The script dictates that as he plays, rocks fall, yet these rocks are actual criminals bound in nets, hoisted above, representing the dismembered Maenads. The ropes fray, bodies drop, bones crack, the lions leap. Music stops. The crowd gasps. Even the somnolent breeze stills. Our role is to witness, to understand the system that produces such displays, and to see how the handler's expertise converts savage acts into political currency. Imperial procurators record expenses in their ledgers. The lion's meat costs 30 sestertii, the trainer's fee 100. The death of the musician, priceless to the senator seeking vengeance. Power is measured in orchestrated suffering. Remember to breathe, to stay grounded in the quiet of your room. Perhaps another soft cycle, inhale 4, hold 2, exhale 6. Let the exhale lengthen the spine of your calm, even as the story winds deeper into Rome's chiaroscuro. Now we focus on one of the most infamous figures to ever stride into the arena, Emperor Commodus. In the year 192 CE, he takes the stage himself, a scandal recorded by Cassius Dio and etched in the collective memory of Rome. His participation transforms the job of the gladiator into an imperial performance. Commodus dons the lion's skin of Hercules, entering through the Porta Libitina, the gate of death. He wields a club, yet his opponents are tethered, injured, or armed with wooden swords. The cruelty lies not only in the staged executions, but in the mockery of a sacred profession. The gladiators, organized into collegia, prided themselves on skill and honor. Commodus turns them into props. Still, consider the lanista who coordinates this performance, Julius Alexicrates, originally a freedman. He realizes the opportunity. By providing Commodus with opponents who appear dangerous yet are carefully disarmed, he gains near-imperial favor. His name surfaces on a marble plinth reused in a medieval wall, reading Julius Alexicrates, Curator Amorum Commodi. This role amplifies his wealth. He earns estates confiscated from a senator accused of conspiracy. His guild, the Familia Alexicrates, becomes the official supplier of gladiatorial weapons, standardizing blades, helmets, and nets. This standardization is confirmed in an inscription catalogued as Sil Nublo 0196, detailing prices for Nereus-style helmets. The emperor's excess thus fuels a market for specialized craftsmanship, yet the spectacle crosses lines for many Romans. The historian Herodian notes senators averting their eyes, ashamed to applaud. Commodus stages a reenactment of the myth of Prometheus, chaining a prisoner to a post while geese peck his liver. The condemned man is actually a philosopher critical of the emperor. The geese, doped on wine, tear clumsily. The act's brutality is matched only by its absurdity. Commodus laughs, the crowd, uncertain, follows reluctantly. This is the point where imperial power corrodes the sanctity of spectacle, turning entertainment into tyranny. The memory of these acts will contribute to the conspiracy that ends his reign on the last day of 122 CE, recorded in the Historia Augusta. The arena becomes a stage for political downfall. Let us slide now to the scribes who record these nights. The Acta Diurna, the daily gazette posted in the forum, includes summaries of notable spectacles. The scribes are often slaves, trained in shorthand, their styluses racing across wax. One such scribe, Livia Q. Felicitas, left a note on a piece of ostracan found near the Aventine: Munus Fulvii, Leo Quatuor, Homo Quatuor, Populus Laetatis sed metuens. Her unusual job gives her knowledge that others crave. Senators consult her to understand public mood. She knows which acts stir revolt, which spark whispered admiration. Her influence is intangible yet potent. When she records the night Commodus fought, her phrasing, princeps ipsa ad arma descendit, multi tacuerunt, becomes part of the evidence used later to justify his assassination. Paperwork has power. The sands are smoothed again. Lanterns twinkle like low stars. The next act brings the naval architect. Rome occasionally floods the arena for Naumachiae, mock sea battles. Though large-scale flooding became rare after Domitian due to structural concerns, smaller water spectacles persisted, documented by Martial in his Liber Spectacularum, and later confirmed by the identification of waterproofing layers in the amphitheatre's substructures. Tonight, engineers led by Sextus Julius Frontinus Minor adapt a partial flooding to stage the siege of Tyre. His unusual profession blends military engineering with theatre. He formerly served as a surveyor for aqueducts. Now he manipulates water for applause. The logistics are staggering. Wooden hulls crafted from cedar, coated in pitch, float on a shallow basin. A complex valve system, inscriptions for which were found in the Piscina Mirabilis, regulates flow. The acts involve condemned soldiers playing the roles of Tyrian defenders, while professional sailors from the Classis Ravanatis portray Alexander's fleet. The sailors' participation is part of a diplomatic strategy. By reminding the public of naval might, the emperor seeks support for increased harbour taxes. The battle proceeds with miniatures, but the violence is real. Flaming arrows, treated with naphtha imported from the east, arc through the damp air. One vessel ignites fully, the condemned inside screaming. The crowd cheers the flames, forgetting perhaps the human cost. Frontinus Minor stands near the arena's edge, adjusting sluice gates, ensuring the water level remains stable. His success earns him a donative. A decade later, he will be appointed Curator Aquarum, oversight of Rome's water supply. Cruelty has financed a public career. One cannot ignore the flow of influence. Between acts, consider the musicians. The Tipacenes and Cornicenes are more than background. Some specialize in tonal patterns designed to manipulate crowd emotion. The musician, Ventidius Callinicus, develops a mournful scale known as the Phrygian descent, played during executions to heighten drama. His notation, scratched onto a piece of bone discovered in the Ludus Magnus, reveals sequences of intervals believed to induce melancholy. He sells this knowledge to editors, who pay to calibrate the crowd's mood. Ventidius invests his earnings into a burial collegium for performers, ensuring proper rites. His influence extends beyond the arena. He mentors temple musicians and writes to the philosopher Sextus Empiricus about the interplay of sound and human behavior. Such unusual careers tether art to the machinery of death. Now we turn attention to the quiet artisans who craft illusions. The Pisces artificers, fish craftsmen, design artificial sea creatures used in aquatic spectacles. They fashion mechanical sharks with articulated jaws, using gilded bronze and dyed leather. One artisan, Decimus Ovidius Naso, leaves behind a sketch etched into plaster in Pompey's 9x286. His creations appear living under lamplight. During tonight's Naumachiae, his mechanical dolphins leap in the shallows, distracting the audience before the sudden eruption of real blood. Ovidius understands the psychology of contrast. Delight before shock heightens impact. He charges fees accordingly. With profits, he funds the construction of a small bathhouse near the Esquiline, noted in Regio 4th records. The interplay of craft, cruelty, and commerce is constant. As we drift through the corridors, we pause at a chamber where priests prepare for the ritual that accompanies the final act. The Pontifex Minor of the arena consecrates the sand with molla salsa, a salted flour mixture, to appease the gods. His role is ancient, borrowed from the rites of the old Comitium. Yet his presence also legitimizes the violence. By blessing the arena, he shields sponsors from accusations of impiety. The Pontifex collects stipends from the aerarium and private donations. He invests in land near Veii, creating a financial base for his family. The brutal acts thus intertwine with religion, and the job of the priest becomes one of the unusual professions that transforms death into acceptable spectacle. A hush sweeps the audience as the final sequence approaches. Torches dim. A silver moon emerges above the velarium. The editor's herald steps forward, announcing a reconstruction of the myth of the Danaids. 50 sisters condemned for murdering their husbands will be executed. In reality, 50 is a dramatic embellishment. The number tonight is 18. They are criminals and prisoners of war, the wives of rebel leaders from the Maori uprising of 71 CE. Rome uses their deaths to send a message about loyalty. The act involves a massive hydraulic wheel, symbolizing the endless task of filling leaky jars. Each woman is strapped to a jar, raised high, then dropped into pits lined with spikes. The wheel is the creation of the mechanopoioi, Greek engineers who migrated to Rome for fortune. Their leader, Callias of Pergamum, patented the design in the sense that he alone knew the counterweight ratios. He sells this expertise to multiple arena organizers across the empire, including amphitheaters in Capua and Nimes, as evidenced by similar mechanisms described in inscriptions from those cities, CILX 174, CIL 1235-5. His wealth becomes legendary. He purchases citizenship for his entire clan, their names recorded in the Tabula Banacitana. The execution proceeds. Each drop elicits gasps. Some in the crowd cover their faces. The brutality is undeniable, yet the apparatus is applauded for its ingenuity. The fine line between innovation and atrocity blurs. Senators discuss the implications of using foreign engineers for Roman justice, but the spectacle ends with cheers. The Danaids' bodies are removed through hidden corridors, taken to the Tiber for disposal. Callias receives a golden torque as bonus, so cruelty rewards expertise. Night deepens. The crowd disperses, murmuring. Some praise the entertainment, others feel uneasy. Vendors collect scattered coins. Street sweepers, another crucial profession, move in. They belong to the Collegium degli Spazzacamini, tasked with cleaning the arena before dawn. Their job is humble, yet essential. Records in the digest indicate they earned modest wages, supplemented by tips from editors who wanted pristine sands for multi-day events. One worker, Septimius Clemens, kept a diary scratched into a potsherd found near the Meta Sudans. He wrote, "After the Danaids, the sand clung to my sandals, heavy like the guilt in my chest." His words remind us that even those on the periphery felt the moral weight of these acts. We linger now in the quiet amphitheatre after midnight. Only lamps remain, casting golden pools. A few guards patrol. the smell of iron and incense lingers. We consider the broader network of wealth flowing from this night. The senator Gaius Fulvius Maximus will leverage the acclaim to secure appointment as proconsul of Asia. The treasury officials note increased sales taxes from vendors, justifying future spectacles. The city's gossip scribes craft narratives that travel along trade routes. Merchants leaving Rome carry stories to Antioch, to Londinium, to the caravanserais of Palmyra. The brutality becomes empire law, shaping perceptions of Roman power. Our path now leads to the workshops near the Ludus Magnus, where gladiators train. The morning after the spectacle, trainers resume drills. The lannistas' accountants tally profit. The armourers, members of the Officina Ferraria, repair gear dented during the executions. Their unusual profession exists in the shadow of death, yet they earn enough to endow altars. One such altar, dedicated to Nemesis, stands today in the Capitoline museums bearing the name Lucius Cassius Sella, Ferrarius Arenarius. His contribution paid for a feast for his guild, a celebration funded by the blood of those dragged across sand. Wealth and influence coil tightly around each act of cruelty. Let us not forget the viewers themselves, whose reactions shaped policy. When spectacles went too far, even Rome took note. The philosopher and senator Marcus Cornelius Fronto once wrote to Marcus Aurelius, preserved in M. Corn. Fronto Epistulae, that excessive cruelty risked dulling civic virtue. After nights like the Danaid execution, petitions reached the Senate requesting moderation. Some emperors complied. Caligula and Nero were notorious for ignoring such pleas. But later, under Antoninus Pius, edicts limited certain practices, forbidding the execution of Roman citizens without trial. The interplay between spectacle and law remains a thread we follow through centuries. As we glide further into the labyrinth, we meet the beast importers again. Their caravans cross deserts, braving heat and bandits. Papyrus receipts from the Fayum list expenses: 10 camels hired, 3 drovers paid, 2 leopards lost. Each successful delivery grants them influence in provincial courts. Governors rely on their networks for intelligence about remote tribes. Some importers serve double roles as informants, reporting to the Frumentarii. Their unusual profession thus blends commerce, espionage, and entertainment. When acts escalate, demand for exotic beasts rises, increasing their leverage. They petition the Senate for tax exemptions, arguing that their work bolsters Roman prestige. One such petition survives in a fragmentary bronze tablet from Thugga, showing the procurator Venatianus receiving rights to build stables within the Pomerium. Cruelty bolsters negotiation power. We move quietly past the animal pens where surviving creatures sleep. There, a bear licks wounds inflicted during the show. A handler whispers soothing sounds, aware that tomorrow the animal might perform again. These handlers often originate from the provinces. Their knowledge of animal behavior is respected, yet they remain socially marginal. The empire exploits their skills while keeping them on the fringes. Nevertheless, some leverage their roles into freedom. The epitaph of a handler named Gaius Pompeius Apollinaris, found along the Appian Way, notes he purchased his liberty with savings from the arena. He died aged 40, leaving funds for a school in his hometown. Brutality, paradoxically, financed education. Consider now the scribes compiling statistics. The imperial administration tracks injuries, crowd size, and costs. The Acta Urbis includes details such as, on the Ides of October, 18 criminals executed, 2 animals lost, 1 machine damaged. These records inform future budgets. The quaestors use them to argue for or against funding. When costs escalate due to elaborate brutality, debates arise over fiscal responsibility. Some senators claim excess burdens the treasury. Others argue the crowds must be appeased to maintain peace. The politics of cruelty thread through the Senate House, shaping policy. In the hush of after hours, whispers of resistance float. Not everyone accepts the brutality. The Christian community in Rome, though still small in the 2nd century, sends members to offer comfort to the condemned. Acts of the Martyrs describe believers singing hymns as they face beasts. Their refusal to participate in the spectacle marks them as outsiders, yet their story spread. Eventually, they influence public perception, contributing to the decline of certain acts. Tertullian writes in De Spectaculis, condemning the arena's violence. His words circulate, challenging norms. Thus, the arena becomes a battleground of ideologies. Return to your own quiet space, aware of the slow passing minutes. Perhaps let another calm breath pass. Inhale 4, hold 2, exhale 6. The rhythm marries past and present, keeping us anchored while we journey through time. We glide through decades now, tracing how the memory of brutal arena acts shaped later generations. After Commodus's death, the Severan dynasty tries to recalibrate spectacles. Septimius Severus favours displays of military might over gratuitous torture, yet whispers persist of nights when prisoners were sewn into animal skins and hunted. The Lex Data of 22 CE attempts to restrict certain punishments to foreigners and slaves, a tacit acknowledgement that Romans crave limits. The unusual professions adapt. Engineers design illusions that simulate death without killing. Yet, demand for genuine blood remains among some elites, ensuring the old crafts continue. The interplay of restraint and excess becomes the dance of Roman entertainment. Travel with me to the amphitheatre of Capua, 2nd largest in Italy. Excavations in the 18th century uncovered inscriptions referencing acts similar to those in Rome, revealing a shared culture of brutality. A mosaic now housed in the Museo Campano depicts a contraption known as the Wheel of Ixion, used to execute traitors by rotation over fire. The craftsman credited is Lucius Annius Crispus, whose workshop produced stage machinery for multiple cities. His business network is documented in clay tablets found in Carthage, showing shipments of mechanical parts. He profits from acts that went too far, yet his success funds public works, including a fountain in Capua. Citizens praise his philanthropy, forgetting the source of his wealth. This duality is quintessentially Roman. We follow the trail of arena acts into the provinces. In Lugdunum, modern Lyon, the amphitheatre discovered on the Forvier Hill reveals inscriptions dedicated to the goddess Cybele, patron of wild animals. The games there included the insertion of criminals into cages with boars whose tusks were dipped in poison. The poison, derived from aconite, was supplied by apothecaries associated with the cult. Their unusual profession straddled religious ritual and deadly spectacle. Funds raised from these acts enriched the provincial priesthood, allowing them to erect the altar of Rome and Augustus. Thus, even in Gaul, brutality financed civic pride. We move onward to Africa Preconsularis. At Thysdrus El Gem, the amphitheatre still stands, its honey-coloured stone glowing under the desert sun. A Latin inscription discovered there, Silate 17664, commemorates the venatio staged by Marcus Aurelius Perpetuus. The inscription boasts of ostriches, leopards, and a meridianus performance, where criminals were forced to reenact the myth of Icarus by leaping from scaffolds while strapped to waxen wings. The wax melted under hidden braziers, sending them plummeting. The designer was a local artisan named Sabinus, known for constructing elaborate funerary pyres. His transition into arena mechanics underscores the fluidity of professions linked to death. His wealth supported the refurbishment of the local forum. The acts went too far, yet the city prospered. Back in Rome, the 4th century sees changes. Christianity gains traction, emperors issue edicts tempering spectacles. Yet even as laws shift, memories of the old brutal acts linger like ghosts. The poet Prudentius writes of the emotional scars they leave. Archaeological evidence suggests that small-scale executions persist in private villas, away from public scrutiny. Wealthy aristocrats host clandestine games, employing retired arena professionals. The unusual careers continue in secret, adapting to new moral climates. This clandestine culture finds reflection in the letters of Symmachus, who laments the loss of traditional games while negotiating the purchase of exotic animals for private festivities. Let's slow our narrative to listen to personal stories. A gladiator named Marcus Attilius, a freeborn volunteer, inscribed his name on the wall of the gladiator barracks, Hic Vici, Hic Vici, Hic Fortuna. He fought twice, victorious both times. His unusual choice to enter the arena was driven by debt. The reward was cancellation of his creditors' claims and a grant of 5,000 sesterces. Yet he later writes on another wall, Spectacula nimium nunc crudelia, complaining that editors demanded more elaborate deaths. His final bout, documented in a graffiti sketch showing him facing a reenactment of the myth of the Cyclops, ends in injury. He retires, invests in a tavern near the Subura, and tells stories of the nights when crowd thirst for horror seemed unquenchable. His voice reminds us that participants were both beneficiaries and victims. Another figure, Valeria Severa, a noblewoman who served as an editor for a special festival during the reign of Hadrian. She funded games to honor her deceased husband, yet she insisted on a moral twist. She staged a performance where criminals were spared at the last moment to highlight clemency. Her act defied expectations, drawing criticism from those who craved blood. An inscription, CIL 6th 1057, records her speech, urging mercy. Yet even she acknowledges in her letters that to draw the crowd, she first promised a brutal spectacle before revealing the reprieve. The promise alone drew ticket sales, showing how the anticipation of cruelty fueled commerce. Her wealth, tied to the estates of Boeotia, allowed her to influence policy, persuading Hadrian to increase protections for slaves. The arena became a platform for social change, albeit rooted in the expectation of brutality. We wander through the archives of the Vatican Library, where medieval scribes preserved ancient texts. Among them is the anonymous De Spectaculis Fragmenta, describing rare performances like the aerial crucifixions, where prisoners were hoisted on poles and left to be attacked by birds of prey trained by specialists from the East. The trainers, likely Nabateans, used techniques inherited from falconry. Their unusual profession straddled hunting and execution. They received gifts from senators impressed by the precision of avian attacks. In turn, they established trade routes for exotic birds, influencing markets in Damascus and Petra. The ripple effect of arena cruelty reaches far beyond Rome's walls. As our journey lengthens, we trace the decline of such acts. Theodosius I, in the late 4th century, issues edicts curbing gladiatorial contests. The battle between old customs and new faith intensifies. Yet even as official support wanes, memories persist. Augustine of Hippo writes in Confessions of his friend Alypius, who struggled with the addictive lure of arena violence. The psychological pull of those brutal acts is immense. They create a cultural imprint that lingers even as arenas fall silent. When Visigoths briefly revive spectacles in Ravenna, accounts mention their crudeness compared to Roman sophistication, highlighting how deeply the empire had intertwined cruelty with artful staging. Still, our focus remains on those moments when the acts went too far, when the machinery of spectacle pushed boundaries. Consider the Reign of Arrows, execution described by Ammianus Marcellinus, where prisoners were fixed to rotating crosses and shot with flaming bolts. The crossbow mechanisms were crafted by Scythian artisans who achieved fame and fortune through their deadly accuracy. They later sold their designs to frontier armies, influencing military tactics. Wealth and influence thus expand from the arena into war. We must also acknowledge the victims' stories. Inscriptions known as tituli sepulchrales honor those who died. One such epitaph from the catacombs commemorates a woman named Agnes, killed in a mock wedding rite at the arena for refusing to renounce her faith. Her community preserves her memory, turning tragedy into sanctity. The brutal act becomes a rallying point for Christians, contributing to the shift in cultural values that eventually deemed such spectacles unacceptable. Thus, the arena inadvertently fuels movements that dismantle it. As night transitions toward dawn in our narrative, we feel the quieting city. The stands are empty, the sands smoothed, the machines dismantled. The actors of cruelty return to their lives. The engineer counts coins. The handler soothes beasts. The editor plans future events, balancing budgets with public mood. The city breathes on. We step away from the Colosseum now, into the streets lined with insulae. Vendors sweep thresholds. The Tiber glints silver. Rome transitions from the electric hum of spectacle to the gentle churn of everyday commerce. Yet whispers of last night's brutality chase citizens to the markets, to the baths, to the forum. They relay details, the melting spears, the Danaid wheel, the emperor's antics. Stories shape collective memory. Artists paint scenes on house walls. Poets weave references into verses. The cruelty becomes law, cautionary and awe-inspiring. In this liminal space between night and dawn, we reflect on how such acts shaped the empire's identity. They displayed Rome's engineering prowess, its wealth, its fearlessness, and its capacity for excess. They provided employment for thousands: gladiators, trainers, engineers, animal importers, musicians, priests, scribes, vendors, doctors, nurses of the condemned, executioners, cleaners, lawmakers. Each profession carved influence from the arena's demands. The acts went too far not only in violence but in the intricate web of society fed by them. We drift forward in time to the Middle Ages. The Colosseum becomes a quarry, its stones repurposed for churches and palaces. Yet local legends persist that ghosts of beasts and gladiators roam its arches. Pilgrims report hearing faint roars at night. The arena's history resurfaces during the Renaissance, when scholars like Poggio Bracciolini read ancient texts and marvel at Rome's past excesses. Artists sketch the ruins, imagining the original spectacles. The knowledge of the brutal acts becomes part of Europe's cultural inheritance, influencing art and literature. Painters depict martyrdoms, sculptors carve gladiator statues. The fascination endures. In the 18th century, tourists on the Grand Tour visit the Colosseum by moonlight. The poet Lord Byron writes of the tragedies, and travellers pen letters describing the chill they feel standing where so many died. Archaeologists begin excavations, uncovering the hypogeum, the machinery, the inscriptions. Academic papers catalogue the professions involved. Museums display artifacts, helmets, tridents, bone fragments, manacles. The brutal acts become subjects of scholarly inquiry. The wealth and influence once gained through them now translate into cultural capital for historians and curators. A modern visitor stands in the arena, reading plaques about the engineer Callias, the curator Venationum, the lanista, the Bestiarius. Their unusual careers are no longer active, but their stories inform our understanding of how societies can normalize excess. We recognize parallels in contemporary entertainments that flirt with ethical boundaries. The past becomes mirror and warning. As we near the close of our night-long journey, let us gather the threads. Ancient Rome's most brutal arena acts pushed technological innovation, expanded professions, redistributed wealth, and reshaped politics. They were not isolated moments of gore, but orchestrated enterprises involving hundreds of specialized roles. Each act, from the flaming Actian hunt to the Danaid wheel, from Commodus's narcissistic performances to the Anatomists' live dissection, from Naumachiae to aerial crucifixions, represented more than cruelty. They were the nexus where power displayed itself, where wealth was made and spent, where influence was bartered, and where the Roman populace negotiated its appetite for spectacle against its sense of decency. Let your breathing soften, your awareness return to the room around you. The night outside your window may be deep, or the dawn may be peaking. Either way, the voices of the past now settle to whispers. Imagine the Colosseum empty, its arcades bathed in starlight, grass pushing through ancient cracks. Hear the distant city hum, modern and alive, yet layered over centuries of silence and echo. The brutal acts we have explored remain lessons suspended in time, reminding us how civilizations balance entertainment, power, and humanity. As your thoughts drift toward rest, know that the stories of arenas across the world still rustle with more secrets, more professions, more lives shaped by the hunger for spectacle. Our lantern is dimming for now, but beyond the horizon, other nights hold other tales waiting to be breathed into being. And so the echoes of the arena dim, leaving only the hush of moonlight over Rome's ancient stones. In the stillness, those shocking spectacles fade into memory, yet the whispers of the men behind them linger. Let us follow those quiet footsteps now, into the hidden training yards and sacred rituals that shaped gladiators' secret worlds where fame and fear forever intertwined. Listen now, under a quilt of quiet breaths and distant rain, to the hush of the ancient world. Settle deeper into your pillow, feel your spine soften, let your eyelids grow heavy. Before we drift, whisper a gentle hello to those listening beside you in time. Leave a comment with your city and your local time, so this circle of travelers can glow across the map like lanterns in the dusk. In the dim light of your room, picture a door opening onto Rome 2 millennia ago. The brass hinges sigh, incense curls in the air, and the evening breeze from the Tiber tastes faintly of olive smoke and promise. You are safe, wrapped warm, yet we will slip together into the lives of men and women who lived in the roar of the amphitheatre. Tonight we wander through the hidden corridors of the gladiators, charting their training, their superstitions, and the celebrity culture that made their sweat into a form of currency. Outside your window the world hums softly. Inside your mind the Colosseum waits. Let us walk quietly, toes pressing into the tiled floors of time. Allow your breath to mirror the slow rhythm of the narrative. Inhale 4, hold 2, exhale 6. Feel the muscles of your face slacken. The city of Rome in the late 1st century CE hums with twilight energy. Carts creaking home across travertine streets. Vendors calling the last prices for figs and lupins. Candlelight flickers through lattice windows, painting the alleys with amber mosaics. The amphitheatre we now call the Colosseum, commissioned under Vespasian and inaugurated by his son Titus in 80 CE, towers like a honeycomb of arches and shadows. But our destination lies just east of it, a complex known as the Ludus Magnus, the Great School, constructed under Emperor Domitian. Archaeologists in the 1930s uncovered its elliptical training yard, dormitory layouts, and even fragments of the subterranean passage that once led directly into the arena. Feel the cool stone beneath your bare feet as we step inside, lantern in hand, observing a space that pulses with discipline, ambition, and whispers of fear. In this dim courtyard, the sand has been combed smooth after the day's drills. Wooden posts stand like silent sentinels. These are the Palus, the training poles where recruits rehearse their strikes. According to the rhetorician Quintilian, serious warriors perfected their form against these posts, swinging wooden swords twice the weight of real weapons to build endurance. Listen. The echo of earlier hours lingers, thuds of impact, grunted counts from the Lanista commanding rhythm. The men who train here have surrendered their old identities. Upon entering the Ludus, each took a solemn oath described by the writer Petronius: Uri, Vincere, Verberari, Ferroc Necari, to be burned, bound, beaten, and killed by the sword if necessary. Yet for many, this vow is the gateway to a different kind of power, a path into the extraordinary interplay of danger and fame that shaped gladiatorial celebrity. Imagine the dormitory, a long rectangular hall with cells lining the walls. Excavations of comparable schools, such as the Ludus Daesicus along the Oppian Hill, reveal barred windows and thresholds deeply worn by sandaled feet. Each small room houses perhaps 2 fighters, their pallets stuffed with straw, their personal possessions arranged with surprising care. Clay oil lamps inscribed with fighting scenes, small bronze figurines of Fortuna or Hercules, simple beads of amber or glass. These unearthed artifacts whisper of talismans cherished against the unknown. On a rough shelf sits a tablet engraved by a previous occupant, maybe scratched with stylus after lights. Out, Victorinus, net fighter, 4th crown. These inscriptions, catalogued in the Corpus Inscriptionum Latinarum, anchor our story in tangible evidence. They tell us that the life of a gladiator was at once regimented and deeply personal, a dance between collective training and individualized superstition. The lanista, master of the school, paces the walkway. He is both entrepreneur and disciplinarian, investing in the acquisition and preparation of fighters. His ledger lists high prices. For a skilled momillo, he might pay 2,000 to 5,000 sesterces, a testament to the value of specialized talent. The historian Aulus Gellius relays anecdotes of lanistae negotiating like seasoned merchants, aware that their fighters are commodities in a competitive entertainment market. To ensure return on investment, the lanista employs the doctor gladiarius, a physician trained in treating wounds and maintaining the athlete's physical prime. In Galen's treatises, especially De Sanitate Tuenda, we find references to their diet: barley, beans, ash-infused tonics rich in calcium, all designed to create a layer of subcutaneous fat that could reduce deep cuts. Picture jars of pulse, a hearty barley porridge steaming in the kitchen, seasoned with dried figs for energy. The hum of instruction shapes every dawn and dusk. The trainees wake before sunrise. A bell clangs, a sound recorded metaphorically in Roman satire as the call to arms. They wrap their wrists in leather strips, smear olive oil on shoulders to keep muscles supple, and shuffle out to the yard. The first drill is footwork. The doctors, veteran instructors, trace lines in the sand to guide precise steps. Advance, retreat, sidestep, pivot. Each class specializes in a distinct fighting style, known as armaturae. The murmillo carries a heavy scutum shield and gladius sword, wearing a helmet crested with a stylized fish. The thraex wields a curved sickle and a smaller shield, his helmet adorned with the image of a griffin. The secutor, with smooth-edged helmet and minimal breathing holes, is trained to face the retiarius, who fights almost naked, armed only with a net, trident, and dagger. The variety ensures that public spectacles remain diverse, a choreography designed to captivate spectators and to showcase the brand power of each performer. Listen closely to the soft murmur of whispered prayers before the sparring begins. Gladiators carry superstitions like hidden armor. The retiarius named Keller, whose name was painted in Pompeian graffiti CIL 42237, reportedly touched his net to the ground 3 times before entering the arena, a gesture for Neptune's favor. Another graffito, CIL 42233, praises Celidus the Thracian as Suspirium Puellarum, the heartthrob of girls, and indicates that admirers visited training grounds to leave messages. Some scribbled good luck incantations on the walls. Valerius Victor, the Secutor, may the gods grant you safety. These fragments reveal a culture where personal ritual and public adoration intertwine. Imagine a young woman pressing a garland of fresh laurel against the doorway of her favorite fighter, whispering a vow that she will wear the same talisman he favors, perhaps a small lunular pendant, until his next match. The superstitions branch outward, connecting fighters, fans, and gods in a web of mutual dependence. Sunlight glints off polished helmets. The doctors measure stamina by timing rounds. A sandwater clock sits in the shade, its glass belly marked with simple increments. When the water drips to a predetermined line, the fighters exchange roles. The training is relentless yet methodical, supported by an economic framework that thrives on discipline. Gladiators who excel can earn special allowances, better cuts of meat, extra wine on festival evenings, even private quarters. An inscription from Lambasis in modern Algeria, Sil 8270117, mentions a gladiator named Marcus Antonius Exocus receiving a bonus of 1,500 sesterces after a decisive victory. With such rewards, these men accumulate personal wealth, unusual for their social origins. Many were enslaved or prisoners of war, but the arena offers a ladder. Each triumph lifts them toward influence. They invest in amulets, gifts for family members, or savings managed by a trusted freedman banker. As dusk deepens, candles flicker along the corridor, and the fighters gather in the shrines. Small alcoves dedicated to deities such as Nemesis, the goddess of righteous retribution, and Hercules, patron of strength. Archaeologists exploring the barracks beneath the amphitheatre in Carnuntum, Austria, discovered a bronze plaque depicting Nemesis receiving offerings from gladiators, proof that these rituals were constant companions. In these quiet rituals, our narrative lingers. A murmillo named Asteropaeus smears blood from a rooster onto the blade of his gladius, reciting the formula taught by his trainer, Nemesi Martis, Custodi me, Nemesis of Mars, guard me. Another touches the carved wheel symbol of Nemesis and spins it gently, believing the rotation will turn fortune in his favor. The chill of stone under the fingers anchors the superstition in tactile reality, a sensory detail that whispers through the centuries. Now let your breathing settle again. Inhale 4, hold 2, exhale 6. Hear the soft scraping of a stylus on wax tablets as the lanista records the schedule for the upcoming festival. Rome thrives on festivals, and none are more anticipated than the Munera, the gladiatorial games originally tied to funerary honours, but by the imperial era woven into civic life. The amphitheatre is both a battlefield and a stage, and the lanista understands the economy of anticipation. He negotiates with editors, the sponsors who fund the games, often senators or wealthy equestrians seeking public favour. Contracts from Pompeii, such as the edict by the Duoviri for the games of 59 CE, CIL 4.9799, outline the terms, number of pairs, species for venations, lengths of bouts, even clauses for refunds if the fighters fail to appear. The gladiator's performance thus becomes a public investment, and his persona, a curated brand. The weight of celebrity emerges in the graffiti scattered around Pompeii's Via dell'Abbondanza. Fans painted red-letter announcements. 20 pairs of gladiators of Aulus Suetius Certus will fight in Pompeii on April 17. There will be a hunt, there will be awnings. The promise of awnings, vela, is a luxury detail, implying that the sponsor spared no expense. Imagine reading those words while strolling at dusk. The warm terracotta walls glowing, the anticipation thick in the air. For the gladiators themselves, these advertisements were proof of their drawing power. Some fighters had the ability to sway ticket sales, and editors vied to hire the most popular names. When the Secutor Flamma, whose tombstone CIL 105392 was found near the Appian Way, stepped into an amphitheatre, crowds cheered a veteran of 34 fights who refused the Rudis, the wooden sword of retirement, 4 times, perhaps because the acclaim was more intoxicating than freedom. We travel now to Capua, home to another major training centre, the Ludus Campanus. Here, archaeologists uncovered a remarkable marble relief showing 2 fighters, one a murmillo, one a thraex, locked in combat. The detail is exquisite. The murmillo's musculature is taut, the feathers cresting his helmet splay outward, while the thraex bends his knees ready to spring forward. This relief not only commemorates victories but served as advertisement for the school. Comparable to modern sports posters, the relief was found near the amphitheatre's entrance, where prospective patrons would see it and recall past spectacles. Celebrity culture is vividly alive here. The best fighters received nicknames, recorded in inscriptions. Priscus the Gaul, Urbanus the netcaster, Melior the secutor. Coins minted in the province of Asia Minor even depict gladiatorial scenes, suggesting that popular fighters could become symbols of civic pride. In the barracks, nights bloom with whispered stories. A veteran shares tales of Emperor Nero summoning the renowned gladiator Spiculus to his private villa, offering him gifts of estates in Praeneste, Antium, and the Alban Hills. Tacitus mentions how Nero, in his despair in 68 CE, even wished for Spiculus to deliver a swift death to him, preferring the famed fighter's blade. Another story floats through the lamplight. Emperor Commodus, who fancied himself a gladiator, fought as a secutor in the arena and demanded payment of 1,000,000 sesterces from the city treasury for each appearance, demonstrating how the role could be wielded for imperial power. These tales feed the aspirational fire of the recruits. They see the possibility of escaping obscurity, of having their likeness carved in ivory, of receiving sportulae, gift baskets from wealthy matrons after a successful bout. When the moon climbs high, the trainees sleep while guards patrol. But in a corner cell, a young recruit named Tiberius, originally a shepherd from Picenum, sits cross-legged with a wax tablet. He inscribes a list of hopes: win first bout, earn laurel crown, send 50 sesterces to mother, commission new amulet with serpent symbol. This is the inner life that archaeology rarely captures, yet glimpses exist. A wooden writing tablet found in Vindolanda, dated around 90 CE, though from a frontier fort, shows how even those of modest status wrote letters home. Extrapolate to the gladiators. The scribbles on amphitheatre walls asking for glory or reporting victories serve as their press releases and personal diaries. Their handwriting curves around Latin invocations, crossing the centuries to settle gently in your awareness. As we continue drifting, let the hum of ancient Rome blend with the rhythm of your breath. Inhale 4, hold 2, exhale 6. Imagine visiting the workshops that outfit these fighters. Armourers in the Subura forge helmets with intricate embossed designs. One helmet found at Pompeii bears a line of silver inlaid inscription, Cassius Silvanus Facete. Cassius Silvanus made this. The craftsman's signature indicates the high value placed on such equipment. The helmet's visor is adorned with a scene of Hercules grappling with the Nemean lion, a symbol of invincibility transferred to the fighter who wears it. The craftsmen maintain shadow reputations of their own, catering to the famous gladiators who can afford custom gear. Some fighters decorate their shields with painted lotus blossoms or the name of their patron, similar to modern sponsor logos. A mosaics fragment from a villa in Zliton, Libya, depicts a gladiator holding a palm branch while his sponsor's name appears above him. Ancient product placement. Let us swing to the morning of a festival. Dawn breaks with the smell of perfumed oil as the gladiators prepare. They share a communal breakfast, perhaps bread dipped in garum, the fermented fish sauce beloved in the Roman diet. The lanista addresses them, reminding them of the matchups, the gestures expected after a victory. They rub chalk on their hands to grip weapon handles firmly. Some kiss talismans before slipping them into the folds of their loincloths. The superstitions intensify now. Small bronze bells, uncovered in the gladiatorial barracks at Pompeii, may have been rung for fortune. There are also lead curse tablets, defictiones, found near arenas, pierced with nails and inscribed with pleas to the gods to cripple an opponent. One such tablet from Carthage reads, "I bind the hands and feet of Oppianicus the gladiator, so he cannot win tomorrow." The fighters are keenly aware that unseen forces might tilt the outcome. Accordingly, they counteract with protective rituals, perhaps sewing a sprig of rue into their tunic to ward off curses. As they form up in the underground hypogeum, the mechanical lifts creak to life. This network of elevators, pulleys, and trapdoors beneath the Colosseum, re-engineered under Domitian, allowed for dramatic entries. The smell here is of damp wood and iron, mingled with the sharp tang of fear sweat. Torchlight wavers over faces painted with oil. A musician plays a slow rhythm on a curved horn, the cornu echoing through the passageways like a heartbeat. The fighters exchange glances, some murmuring prayers to Mithras, whose cult was popular among soldiers and gladiators. The Mithraeum beneath the Circus Maximus contains frescoes of cosmic symbolism that resonated with warriors seeking spiritual brotherhood. For a gladiator, initiation into such mystery cults provided a sense of community beyond the arena, another thread in the fabric of superstition and identity. Imagine emerging into the arena. The roar is muted, not the deafening scream movies often portray, but a sustained hum, like ocean waves against cliffs. Tens of thousands of spectators fill the marble tiers, senators in the podium, equestrians in the Maeonium primum, commoners in the upper levels, and women, relegated to the topmost rows, leaning forward with eyes wide. Vents waft saffron-scented water onto the crowd, a detail recorded by Cassius Dio in his account of Titus's inaugural games. The sun strikes the sand, turning it golden. Gladiators stride out in pairs, saluting the editor's podium with the conventional greeting. Ave, Imperator, morituri te salutant, though historians note this was not universal, mentioned specifically in Suetonius's account of a mock naval battle. Still, the salute symbolizes their controlled defiance, their readiness to transform mortal risk into capital. Observe a particular fight now, narrated as if a slow-motion dream. A Murmillo named Marcus Tiberinus faces a Thraex named Nemesis Felix. Marcus has won 4 matches, the palm fronds painted on his shield mark each victory. Felix is a newcomer, but whispers in the stands already praise his agility. The announcer, perhaps the herald described in the mosaic of the Villa Borghese, raises his staff and proclaims their names, the crowd chanting in response. Marcus circles left, keeping his gladius close, while Felix feints with his curved blade. Their movements are not haphazard, but meticulously trained choreography, tested countless times in practice. When Felix lands a glancing blow on Marcus's helmet, the brass rings as if a bell, and the audience gasps. These moments feed the gladiator's fame. The more dramatic the exchange, the more likely spectators will shout for mercy or favor, forging an emotional connection that transcends status. In the stands, vendors circulate with trays of honeyed nuts and mulled wine. They also sell wax figurines of popular gladiators, shaped from molds discovered in artisans' workshops. A child clutches a miniature of the famed Retiarius Astyanax, his name scratched on the base. Merchandise is not a modern invention. In Herculaneum, archaeologists uncovered shop stalls selling oil lamps with gladiatorial scenes, proof of an ancient souvenir economy. Successful fighters controlled their image carefully. Some commissioned portraits, like the mosaic from Piazza Armerina, showing female gladiatrices named Amazon and Achillea in mid-bout. These depictions circulated widely, establishing the fighter's brand across the empire. Back in the arena, Marcus Tiberinus gains the advantage, pressing Felix with shield bashes learned in training. He sweeps Felix's legs, sending him to the sand. The crowd surges to its feet. Felix, wounded but not mortally, raises his finger, a gesture known as ad digitum, to request clemency. The editor weighs the crowd's response, hands hovering. Cries of "Miti, release him," echo from the stands, especially from fans wearing Felix's colors, perhaps a strip of purple cloth tied to their tunic. The editor, enticed by potential future profits from another day's spectacle, signals mercy. Felix is spared, his fame skyrocketing. He will return home to the Ludus to be treated with wine, honey, and a poultice of crushed barley, the standard remedy described by Scribonius Largus. Meanwhile, Marcus receives a laurel crown and perhaps a purse of 5,000 sesterces, a handsome sum equal to several years' wages for an ordinary laborer. Wealth begins to pool at his feet, earned through orchestrated danger and amplified through the culture of adoration. As night falls, the fighters return to their school. The physicians apply salves of myrrh and vinegar to cuts, murmuring chants learned from the intersection of medicine and superstition. Galen's case notes mention the use of ashes from burned snail shells mixed into drinks to expedite healing, an example of empirical knowledge blended with mystical thinking. In a corner, the trainer records statistics, number of strokes landed, stamina in each bout. Gladiators then attend a small banquet hosted by the editor, where they recline on couches according to rank, sipping watered wine. This is where social networks tighten. Influential patrons approach the most popular fighters, offering gifts in exchange for public appearances at private dinners, similar to athlete endorsements today. The poet Martial, in his Liber de Spectaculis, wrote epigrams about specific fighters, immortalizing them in verse and ensuring their names reached literate elites. In the quiet after the festivities, we drift through the city's insulae, the apartment blocks. On walls, fresh graffiti appears overnight. Someone writes, "Secundus the Netman, most beloved by the women." Another scribbles, "Crescens the Thracian, the delight of all the girls." These lines, CIL 48889 and CIL 48931, show the fan culture that elevated gladiators into heartthrobs. Women of status, though officially discouraged from mingling with fighters, often pursued secret liaisons. Juvenal's sixth satire recounts tales of wealthy women infatuated with gladiators, especially those bearing the scars of battle, which were seen as marks of virility. Such rumours increased a fighter's value. The lanista might charge extra for private appearances. In a society stratified by class, the gladiator's dangerous allure allowed him to cross thresholds otherwise closed. The economy around gladiators extended beyond Rome. Provincial cities competed to host renowned schools. In Augusta Treverorum, modern Trier, an amphitheatre built around 100 CE helped attract tourists to the city's thermal baths. Inscriptions from the area mention gladiators receiving civic honours, such as seats of privilege in theatres. The job of gladiator was thus a vehicle for municipal pride and economic stimulus. Cities invested in training facilities, understanding that the starfighters drew crowds, trade and prestige. Wealthy patrons sponsored entire schools. An inscription from Pergamum celebrates Gaius Claudius Apelles for financing a Ludus in 30 CE, earning him the admiration of the populace. Gladiators could reciprocate by dedicating statues to patrons, forming a symbiotic relationship. An example stands in the Naples Archaeological Museum, a marble base dedicated by the gladiator Hilarus to his patron, inscribed with gratitude and a plea for continued support. Let your body sink deeper into the mattress, hearing the murmur of ancient voices as a lullaby. Inhale 4, hold 2, exhale 6. Consider the psychological landscape of these fighters. The philosopher Epictetus, himself once enslaved, noted that the gladiator must imagine the worst and yet step forward. Such stoic discipline is mirrored in their daily routines. Some evidence suggests they practiced visualization. Galen recounts how fighters rehearsed potential injuries in their mind to reduce fear. Superstitions served to fill the gaps between training and unpredictability. The goddess Nemesis, the lairers of the household, the mysterious power of engraved stones, all provided a sense of agency. Archaeologists have uncovered gemstones carved with images of Hercules, Mercury, or Mars, often found in gladiator graves. These were likely worn as rings or pendants, believed to confer divine favour. A gem in the British Museum, inscribed with a cicuta holding a palm branch and the word "Vicit," might have belonged to a champion celebrating his victory. We glide through time to Pompeii again, to the 20th of February 62 CE, when an earthquake rattled the city. The amphitheatre's outer wall cracked, and the gladiator barracks sustained damage. Yet the games resumed soon after, until a riot in 59 CE, we now know from Tacitus and graffiti, erupted between Pompeians and supporters from New Syria. The Senate punished Pompey by banning games for a decade. What happened to the gladiators during that ban? They likely toured other cities, leveraging their notoriety to bargain for better terms, demonstrating their status as free agents in a sense. When the ban lifted, they returned to a city eager for spectacle, their legend amplified by absence. The riot also underscores the loyalty of fans, whose pride in their gladiators could boil into violence, a testament to the deep communal ties forged by the athletes' performances. Beyond the sands of Rome, gladiators fought in provincial amphitheatres from Londinium to Antioch. In Londinium, fragments of amphitheatre seating bear carved initials, perhaps of regular attendees. A tombstone unearthed near Southwark depicts a gladiator with a circular shield and swirling crest, signalling that the fame of these fighters travelled with the empire's expansion. They became cultural exports. The job was unusual, not only for the personal risk, but for its ability to bridge diverse audiences. Merchants, soldiers, aristocrats, immigrants, all gathered in arenas to watch these choreographed battles. Their shared experience softened social divides. The gladiator thus wielded influence over public morale and identity. In cities facing political tensions, games acted as pressure valves, and the effectiveness of a reprieve often depended on the renown of the fighters. Step into a quiet room now, deeper in the Ludus, where the scriber, the clerk, keeps records. Parchment scrolls detail the earnings of each fighter, their medical history, their personal requests. An entry might read, Gnaeus Satirius, Murmillo, 6 victories, 2 draws, awarded a gold talk by Titus Furius. Purchased from Lanista C. Petronius for 3,500 sesterces. These records mirror modern sports statistics, quantifying success to negotiate future contracts. Some gladiators even formed collegia, social clubs providing mutual support and burial benefits. The Collegium of the Augustules in Pompeii included gladiators among its ranks, indicating their integration into civic structures. Membership in such associations enhanced their prestige and provided a network to market their celebrity. We drift toward their tombs, lined along the Via Appia. Tombstones reveal personal stories. One stone for the gladiator Diodorus, a secutor, depicts him striking down a retiarius. The inscription blames a referee for unfairly halting the match. Another commemorates Urbicus, who fought 13 times and died at 22, highlighting the sobering mortality. Yet even in death, fame persists. The epitaph of Flamma reads, Flamma, secutor, lived 30 years. Fought 34 times, won 21, drew 9, lost 4. Such statistics immortalized him as a legend. Tombs also list the names of freedmen or family members who funded the memorial, often wealthy individuals moved by devotion. A female gladiator's epitaph from Ostia, though fragmentary, hints at the presence of gladiatresses who similarly attracted admiration. Return now to a warm training room where older gladiators instruct novices in the art of showmanship. They teach not only combat techniques but how to acknowledge the crowd, when to pause dramatically, how to display wounds to elicit sympathy. The rhetorical skills of gladiators matter. Martial describes how the gladiator Hermes captivated spectators with his elegant gestures and calculated glances. He was, in effect, managing his brand. Gladiators kept track of fans, perhaps sending small gifts such as perfumed oil after victories. In turn, fans organized themselves into supporters clubs, wearing colors, singing chants. A graffito from Pompeii reads, The supporters of Lucius Acetius hold their breath in admiration. Notice the wording, they offer breath, a vital essence, to their idol. The exchange of breath mirrors our own calming practice, connecting us across centuries. Allow yourself another soothing breath. Inhale 4, hold 2, exhale 6. Feel the cushion beneath your head, the ancient stories cradling you. We now explore the superstitions in more detail, descending into a sanctuary beneath the amphitheatre of Capua. Here, archaeologists found a fresco of Nemesis with a wheel and a griffin surrounded by offerings, coins, miniature swords, and terracotta votives shaped like limbs. Fighters believed that leaving a model of an injured limb could preempt harm or secure healing. The sanctuary walls are scrawled with names and victories, a gallery of devotion. Some gladiators adopted syncretic practices, blending Roman, Greek, and local deities. In the East, inscriptions mention dedicating wins to Isis or Serapis, reflecting multicultural influences among the fighters, many of whom were captured soldiers from far-flung regions. Their superstitions thus formed a mosaic of beliefs, each piece reflecting origin, experience, and hope. Celebrity thrived on storytelling. At night, poets recited narratives of celebrated matches. The poet Statius, in his Sylvae, describes the emperor's beasts and fighters as stars in Rome's theatrical cosmos. A particularly adored gladiator might inspire fans to name their children after him. In Herculaneum, a brick inscription mentions a toddler named Spiculus, likely honouring Nero's favourite. This naming trend shows how gladiators seeped into family life. Meanwhile, shops sold perfume labelled Saviour's Favour, rumoured to be the scent worn by the popular fighter Savia. Whether authentic or opportunistic, such products illustrate the marketing surrounding these athletes. They became household names, their likenesses appearing in mosaics, frescoes, and even on terracotta cups found in taverns. Let us visit a tavern in Pompeii's Vicolo della Nave Europa. Night patrons gather, dice clatter, and talk inevitably turns to the next games. A bard sings a ballad of the gladiator Carpophorus, famed for facing wild beasts with grace, referencing the account by Martial of Carpophorus defeating a bear, a lion, and a leopard in a single performance. Patrons toast to the upcoming spectacle, exchanging wagers. Betting on outcomes was common despite official disapproval. Money flowed across the counter, and the tavern owner took a cut. Gladiators themselves placed cautious bets, sometimes on their opponents to hedge risk, a practice hinted at in Seneca's letters, where he warns against overconfidence. The economic ecosystem thrives beyond the arena, strengthening the fighter's influence over urban nightlife. We glide to the baths, the social hubs of Rome. After victories, gladiators visited bath complexes like the Stabian Baths, receiving adoration from admirers. They made appearances in the Tepidarium, where warm mist carried their names to the ears of merchants and artisans. Bath attendants offered them scented oils for free, hoping to win favour. A mosaic in the Suburra's Baths of Trajan features a gladiator's portrait, suggesting that bathhouses decorated their walls with images of popular fighters to attract clientele. These athletes, though socially marginal by some standards, wielded a charisma that opened doors into spaces of refinement. Their narratives became part of the city's gossip, shared over plates of olives punctuated with citrus zest. In the training yard again, a veteran instructs a novice on the importance of breathing. Always listen to the wind in your chest, he might say. Before a strike, inhale 4, hold 2, exhale 6. This rhythm not only steadies nerves, but perhaps reflects the meditative practice we now borrow for our own calm. Such techniques might have been passed down orally, unrecorded, yet their presence in our narrative underscores the human continuity between fighters and listeners across centuries. Bodies respond to fear and anticipation similarly, whether facing a crowd of 50,000 or moving through the anxieties of modern life. As the years advance, some gladiators earn their freedom. When awarded the Rudis, they become Rudiarii. Many choose to stay on as trainers, capitalizing on their celebrity to mentor new fighters and maintain income. Their names carry weight. Parents send their sons to study under legends. A famous example is the gladiator freedman Marcus Attilius, whose name appears on an inscription in Pompeii as a victor, despite being a novice. He likely continued as a coach, his reputation attracting students. Freed gladiators also invest their earnings, purchasing taverns, bathhouses, or racehorses. The epitaph of the freed gladiator Paris mentions his ownership of a tavern. Such investments amplify their influence, embedding them into the urban economy. The unusual nature of their job, combining spectacle, danger, and public adoration, creates a platform for social mobility. Travel with me to the frontier city of Carnuntum around 71 CE. The amphitheatre here has been reconstructed, and archaeologists unearthed the gladiators' quarters. Among the finds was an ivory-handled knife engraved with symbols of Fortuna, likely used in sacrificial rituals. The quarters include a small garden where herbs like rue, sage, and chamomile grew, plants used both for medicine and magic. The presence of a garden indicates attention to mental well-being, a space to meditate or perform quiet rituals. Perhaps fighters walked there at dawn, repeating a mantra, Fortuna favet fortibus, fortune favors the brave. In the east, the city of Ephesus hosts games sponsored by elites eager to showcase Roman culture. A sprawling stadium mosaic depicts gladiators with their names, Montanus, Bellerophon, Eros. These mosaics serve as archive and advertisement. Visitors to the city, upon seeing such images, might seek out souvenirs or visit the training grounds. Gladiators thus functioned as ambassadors of Roman spectacle to subject peoples, reinforcing imperial identity. Yet, as the famous riot in Pompeii showed, they also sparked local pride strong enough to challenge central authority. We now weave in the voices of those who watched. A letter from Pliny the Younger to a friend describes attending games and critiquing the repetition. He found some matches tiresome, yet he detailed the ferocity and youth of the fighters, acknowledging their courage. His perspective reminds us that not everyone adored the games, but even skeptics contributed to the conversation about gladiators, thereby sustaining their cultural presence. Christian writers like Tertullian condemned the arena, calling it a den of cruelty, but in doing so they inadvertently testified to its popularity. The debates around morality, spectacle, and heroism highlight the gladiators' role as a lightning rod for societal values, elevating their status as symbols around which ideologies clashed. Pause again, feeling the softness beneath your body. Inhale 4, hold 2, exhale 6. The superstitions we've traced, amulets, curse tablets, cult rituals, stem from the need to control outcomes. The training regimens, diets, carefully recorded statistics demonstrate the professionalization of the gladiatorial career. Celebrity emerges from fan culture, endorsements, and civic honors. Together, these elements sculpt the hidden lives behind the arena's blaze. Gladiators are entrepreneurs of risk, their bodies the capital they invest, their reputations the dividends they reap. The lanista manages a portfolio of fighters, balancing training expenses against expected gate receipts. Patrons and sponsors view them as vehicles for public approval. The entire ecosystem reveals how an unusual profession became a nexus of wealth and influence in the Roman world. We follow a particular figure now, the gladiator Pylades, known from a funerary stele in Aquileia. The stele shows him with a laurel crown and a purse, indicating prize money. The inscription mentions that he dedicated part of his earnings to fund a public fountain in his hometown. Such acts mirror modern athletes building schools or hospitals. By financing public amenities, Pylades converted arena glory into lasting civic legacy, tying his celebrity to tangible improvements. The fountain, though now fragments, once flowed with cool water that quenched the thirst of artisans and children, a daily reminder of Pylades' generosity. Consider also the female gladiators, though rare. The British Museum holds a marble relief from Halicarnassus showing two women, Amazon and Achillea, fighting with shields and helmets. The inscription tells us they were granted missio pardon, indicating the crowd's admiration. Their participation reveals the breadth of the phenomenon. Despite social norms, these women stepped into the arena, capturing the imagination of spectators. Juvenal mentions women practicing swordplay by night, highlighting their determination. Their celebrity was doubly transgressive, defying gender expectations, and thus even more tantalizing to the public. Their influence is noted by historians as evidence of how far the gladiatorial culture permeated society. When a gladiator retires, he might open a school of his own. The former gladiator, Sosus, mentioned in a 2nd century inscription from Thessalonica, ran a training troupe, mentoring youths and travelling to festivals across the Balkans. His letters, though lost, are cited by travellers who noted his meticulous preparation. He insisted on regular sacrifices to Hercules before each trip, continuing the superstitions that guided his career. His school produced fighters who gained renown in Athens and Pergamum, spreading his legacy. The alumni network of such schools demonstrates how gladiators managed cultural capital, turning personal fame into institutional strength. As we approach the later centuries of the empire, gladiatorial games face mounting criticism from Christian leaders. Emperor Constantine, after his conversion, restricted certain forms, though the institution persisted into the 5th century in some regions. The reason for their eventual decline lay not only in moral shifts, but in economic changes and military pressures. Yet even after the games faded, the stories endured. Medieval chroniclers still recalled the valor of the ancient fighters, preserving their names like relics. Their superstitions morphed into legends, their training regimens into tales of heroic discipline. The job left an imprint on cultural memory that outlived the empire. Now, turn gently back toward your own present. The hidden lives we traced, a labyrinth of training, ritual, fame, mirror aspects of our world. Modern athletes and performers embrace rigorous training, follow superstitions, cultivate brands, and wield influence. When we watch a football game or a ballet, we witness echoes of the amphitheater. The sponsorships, the commemorative merchandise, the fan clubs, the breathless media coverage, they are descendants of the ancient dynamics. The key difference lies in context, yet the human heartbeat is constant, a desire to transcend ordinary life, to be seen, to transform risk into meaning. Gladiators, unusual workers in a perilous field, achieved wealth and sway, not through birthright, but through the alchemy of spectacle and resilience. Let us close with gratitude for the stories that cradle us. Thank you for lying here, listening, traveling across time on a river of whispered history. Keep breathing gently. Inhale 4, hold 2, exhale 6 as you drift towards sleep. When you wake, remember the hidden lives of Roman gladiators, their disciplined training, their fierce superstitions, their glittering celebrity, and the ways they turned danger into influence. I am grateful you joined me in this quiet journey. If another profession from the past intrigues you, share it in the comments so we can explore together in future nights. Until then, rest softly under the Roman stars.